You're listening to the Wrestling Philosophy Show, where we talk wrestling perspectives and beliefs. Check us out on social media, including video shows on YouTube and audio on podcast platforms. In show 22, we connect with Clint Musser of Cleveland State. He shares a story of Mike Pucillo and Tom Ryan. He talks about becoming a student again during his MMA career and the coaching aspects he took away from it. He discusses his daughter getting into the sport and his approach as a parent. He talks in depth on the rules and the life path wrestling provides today. Here we are, joined with Clint Musser of Cleveland State. How you doing today, Clint?
Doing great, Jared. How about yourself?
I can't complain. Just talked with Boomer and Josh. So great day to talk to you guys and hear what's going on with the program. Obviously, I'm from Ohio. I know your path and your history of wrestling and coaching. Just give us the listeners a few tidbits of your background.
Well, I had the privilege of getting started at North Akron Wrestling Club, trial by fire. I first day practice there, I got beat so bad for 2 hours that I couldn't even open the car door to get out of the car when we got home. So, but something drew me back. Basically, it was like, how did those kids do what they did to me, man? I got to figure this out, right? And so that was where I got my start, and I couldn't have got a start in a better place. We didn't know really what we had, but just a bunch of, great guys. So many state champs, NCAA All-Americans, national champions, world team members that ended up coming out of that club. So had the fortunate experience being there with Bill Barger and a whole host of other coaches. That led me to Walsh Jesuit. I got to wrestle at Walsh in the 90s when we put together a great team and made some awesome runs. Fortunate enough to have people around me to help me get to be a 3-time state champ and 4-time finalist. We won 3 team titles while I was there at Walsh. And back then we didn't have the super tournaments like they do now, but they did kind of a vote on best team in the nation, and we were voted that twice during my high school career, and got to go to Penn State, wrestle at Penn State. Another great experience there, great coaches, great teammates. Had the privilege and opportunity to be a 2-time All-American, NCAA finalist, right? Didn't really reach my goals and what I really wanted it in my college career, but nonetheless, it's a great experience and a great career. Did a little bit of international wrestling, but kind of just didn't pursue it the way I should have. Back then, just had the wrong attitude. Kind of life went south in a few ways, and I had some lessons I needed to learn, so I kind of missed my opportunity in my international career. But coached in high school back in kind of the early mid 2000s, right? Got to coach at Massillon Perry and Walsh Jesuit. Got to coach great athletes like Steve Luke and Dustin Schlater and Jason Johnstone and David Rella and Mike Pucillo, and guys even like Nate Skinesny, Johnny DeJulius, and did a lot of club coaching back then too, where we had guys like Tomasello and Corey Stainbrook and
I remember Corey.
A whole list of studs coming through. Took a little break off coaching there for a minute, and actually went into MMA. Had a competitive MMA career for a few years. Got about 8 fights over a couple-year period of time. Trained real hard a couple years. I had that competition bug in me.
Mm-hmm.
It was killing me. And I had to compete one more time really before I got too old for it. And it was a great opportunity to do that. I won a national amateur title, fought a few pro fights, which was a great experience. And then kind of realized that didn't have much time left in that, and transitioned back into coaching. When I transitioned back into coaching, I made a move to get into college coaching, right? Wanted to coach back on the collegiate level. I wanted to go back to school and work on a master's degree, right? And I got my start there at your alma mater, Kent State.
Right.
Jimmy, gave me an opportunity there, which was great. And I knew, of course, Josh. We had known each other for a long time. Got the opportunity to coach with him there for a while, and we had Dustin Kilgore while I was there, and Ian Miller, and it's great to work, and a host of other good guys. I'm listing the guys that accomplished the top, but a whole host of great kids and athletes that have been able to, and it's not always, it's not always the top dog wrestler in the room that brings you the most kind of joy as a coach, but it's guys that we all see on the boards and stuff like that. But yeah, it was great coaching those guys. Made a transition to Cleveland State for a year, and kind of at that time I was kind of focused on finishing my master's and probably going that route, right? Instead of continuing to coach in college. But I got a call from Teague Moore, head coach at American University, back in 2015. And I guess I had been leaving this open in my mind a little bit to the possibility of, hey, if there's a really good opportunity that kind of fits the metrics of what I would need to have happen to stay in the coaching game, then I'm going to take a look at that. And everything that they offered American hit everything. It was, I literally kind of just made a decision that I'm going to be coaching for one more year, and then I'm going to go, follow my master's and go in a career with that. But I got that call, and I talked with my wife, and we made the move and decision to go down to the DC area. I coached there for 4 years. Great experience there as well. I learned a lot from Coach Moore. Learned a lot about different institutions, kind of the East Coast, and it's a little bit of a different world out there. But got to coach, David Terrell, and he had his awesome All-American run there in 2016. Yeah. Everybody loved that. It was a phenomenal thing to see, and it was a phenomenal thing to be a part of. His brother Josh Terrell and some other, just great kids, John Boyle, Jared Kasnick, just a great group of kids. And Keyshawn Clark, who's an up-and-comer, he didn't get a chance to make Tanner Harvey. They both qualified for NCAAs last year, but they didn't get a chance to go make their mark. So we're all hoping, and then ultimately made the decision. Really, what it came down to with my wife and I, we both have young kids. They're in 4th and 1st grade right now, and really what we wanted to do is we wanted to raise them here, where we both grew up, right? To be near family. Really, to be near family. Really, what the thought was, we got one chance to do this. They got one chance to grow up, and they love their grandparents, their cousins. They love them so much, and we wanted to have the opportunity to grow up around them, so they could all be a part of each other's lives. And some things fell into place that helped make that happen. And here we are, back in Northeast Ohio. And last year was my first year back at Cleveland State, and we're working hard on shaping that program up. It's Ben Stahura, before Josh, he did a great job saving the program, but man, he was fighting a lot of forces against him. They tried to do the program twice in the last decade, and it's hard to build a program when they're doing that to you, right? Mm-hmm. But I think one thing that happened was the Northeast Ohio and wrestling community, the Cleveland State wrestling community, really stepped up in a big way and showed that university how important wrestling is to the university and to the area. And I really feel like we're in the strongest position that we've ever been. And, now, like Josh has said, it's working on building the program, and that's where we're at right now. And we got a great group of guys on the team. We got guys that believe in themselves, that want to be there, that want to work hard, and have the ability to succeed. So, those are all the elements that you need to create something. So, and quite honestly, a coaching staff that can help them get there. I think there's some good things in store for the future of Cleveland State wrestling.
First time you've had 2 paid assistant coaches, right? Is that right now?
Yeah, which is kind of incredible to think.
Right.
You look at some things, and everybody says, "Oh, how does Cleveland State? How can they not be good?" Blah blah blah. Being in a hotbed area and things along these lines. There's more to just being located somewhere, right? With what's going on, like if your university isn't behind what you're doing, right, and they can't get behind what you're doing, right, you're gonna struggle, right? It's an unbelievably competitive world out there, mm-hmm. right? So you got Pennsylvania, and then you got Ohio, right? 2 top states in the country. Every university in the country is recruiting out of these states. Every university, mm-hmm. right? So, you're Ohio, you're getting recruited from the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, the Armed Forces schools, right? So as an Ohio school, if you're not doing what you can, to keep up with that and be competitive there, you're going to lose those recruits, and that's what's happened for forever, really.
Right. Right.
Since I can remember, right? And so we got great Ohio wrestlers. If they're not going to Ohio State, they're going somewhere else out of state, right? Largely, not always, not completely, but to a large degree, right? But the good news about that is there's a huge window of opportunity open to the university that can see the potential, right? And there is huge potential. If we can keep a portion of the talent that we have in Northeast Ohio and in the state of Ohio at large at home and in Cleveland, we're going to be a very successful program, right? We're going to be a top 20 program on a consistent basis. And with the leadership that they have at Cleveland State now, it's new leadership, which is been badly needed. Let's just say that for a long time. They're getting that. I think they're starting to see that, right? And they're the kind of people that I think want to succeed and want to help build programs that can be successful and put Cleveland State athletics on the map. So, I'm hopeful that, they're going to be very supportive of the wrestling program. I know Josh is working hard to engage our alumni and things on those lines, but all those things need to come together if you're going to build a successful Division I program. It's not that you're there, you have some scholarships, and that's that. There's a lot of other factors when you're talking about competing on this level. Right.
And, most people know, but one battle you guys don't have to fight is football at Cleveland State, which usually that, in a way creates a lot of problems for, your, Olympic sports, correct?
Well, we're seeing that play out right now, aren't we? It's, and where it works out good, it's great. The Big Ten schools largely, most of them anyway. They've got huge football programs bringing tons of money for the other programs, and the other programs benefit.
Right.
But that only works at a handful of schools. Everywhere else in the country, and this has been going on. We know this, I know this. It's been going on for decades, right? Your own university, your alumni, they lose millions of dollars a year trying to keep a Division I football program on the field, right? And chasing Ohio State and chasing Michigan and chasing Alabama and things on those lines. And then who suffers? It's the other programs that suffer. They don't change course with football. They cut track, they cut baseball, they cut wrestling, right? And we all kind of have to live in that environment. And right now, particularly, those types of universities are really struggling. Their athletic departments are really struggling because they've just dug a gigantic financial hole for themselves, trying to keep up in that realm. And now with the advent of this pandemic, facing a lot of other struggles, and who gets hurt again? It's the athletes and the kids, right? And in my mind, if we're not doing this to provide opportunities for the athletes, the young athletes, right? You and I, we both had dreams that we could look to, right? Like, these are the things that inspired us. I watched the state tournament and I was inspired. I got to see what the NCAA was, all right, and the great accomplishments that those athletes made, and I was inspired. I got to see the Olympics and I was inspired. I was an otherwise uninterested student at all. The thing that captured me was the ability to be able to dream and see the possibility of accomplishing those big goals that help push me to better things in my life, right? And in my mind, if that's not what we're doing in athletics and college athletics programs right now, I don't know what we're doing, right? I don't know what we're doing. So, we'll see what ends up happening here. I have a feeling there's going to be a significant change and significant shift in NCAA Division I athletics that comes out of this, but only time will tell. And what I truly hope is that we come out of this and people are thinking about really why we're doing what we're doing in athletics. So, that's my hope. That's my hope.
Right. No, I hear you. When Stanford cuts programs, but they don't cut administration, that's a whole nother story. I don't want to get into, that on this show, but I guess going back, when you're at Walsh, was Fred Dougherty and Jeff Black there? Were they on the coaching staff?
Mm, gosh, yeah. Well, Jeff was absolutely,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure Freddie was there. I know Nate
Yeah.
was young at
Yeah.
that point. And I know that Freddie was, focused on coaching Nate. So Freddie might have been a lot more, at North Akron. And then as Nate came into Walsh, I think Fred probably came in with him, which was a little bit after I left. I think.
Yeah. He was my age, so he was 96 through 99. So he was
Okay.
coming in right after
Yeah,
you. But
so about a year or two after I was out, I think, and then Fred was there for a long time, up until just a couple years ago, helping
right.
out.
Yeah. No, that's I got a lot of Freddie stories and Jeff. They have places. They come up this way to my area. So growing up with them and Nate and seeing the Hurley brothers and things like that. Fred's a funny dude, man. I'll never forget my brother Drew running his mouth one time, and Freddie had to lay a smack down on him. It was pretty funny.
Nice.
Yeah, Drew is young kid, think he's all tough, and Freddie had to show him what's up. It was kind of funny.
You know what? I'd like to see Freddie lay the smackdown. That'd be fun to watch.
Yeah. And Jeff, man, he's I never forget. This is a couple years before Mike Pucillo won his national title. He I think we were out in Kent actually, and he was like, I'm put any amount of money right now. He was pretty fired up. He's like, Mike Pucillo is going to win a national title, and everyone, at that time, I think he was he wasn't even Ohio State yet, and he was just going on, and everyone's like, come on, Jeff, whatever, and sure enough, a couple years later, Mikey's in national finals and wins, and it was pretty cool just hearing stories of Jeff, so passionate about how he knew Mike was going to win that national title. But yeah, I guess that's my everyone has their I'm sure you get a lot of questions of Walsh stories and things like that, but pretty cool
on that with Mikey Pucillo and,
okay.
And Jeff. Jeff's a great coach, and he knows wrestling, right? And he knows great wrestlers. He just
right.
he does.
He
right?
can see it. Yeah.
And and a great story from Mikey Pucillo, and kind of one of the reasons that Tom Ryan is who he is so I was coaching Mike, working with him a lot of one-on-one, all this stuff, and I'm like, and he's not getting any calls from anybody. He's not getting calls from Ohio State, Penn State, or anything like that. So I reach out to those guys. I say, hey, look, man, you're I know hasn't won state yet. This kid's the real deal. He's a two-time runner-up. I mean, he was two-time runner-up.
And he didn't look like much either, right? I mean,
right.
To be
and
honest,
that's the thing. They're looking at his body. And he went up in weight class quite a bit his senior year. But that was a conscious decision we made. Where I'm like, Mikey, you're not going to wrestle 57 in college. He was runner-up at 152. He should have won. If he would have stuck to the game plan we had, he would have won. But he had to go test his ego out there, and he got thrown on his back. And lost the state championship, but that's okay. But he learned, right? And he was very hungry, right? He was very hungry, very focused. But in the off season, he was weighing 220, 230. I said, Mikey, you're not going to be a 57. You're going to be an 84 pounder in college, right? So allow your body to be what it is, and let's train your body at where it is, and prepare you to wrestle at those weight classes. So he's a little nervous about going 189. He ended up taking third at the Ironman. Lost. I can't remember what we lost to in the maybe quarterfinals or semifinals at the Ironman. Ended up having a great season. But I call those guys at Penn State and Ohio State, and quite honestly, the Ohio State coaches, it was Hellickson and Mitch Clark back then. They laughed in the background when we called and talked, and it was me and Sonny actually calling them, and they laughed in the background. Right? I'm like, okay. But one guy was reaching out and asking a lot of questions about Mike Pucillo. And he wanted to go to Ohio State so bad, right? And it was Tom Ryan. Tom Ryan was still the head coach
Hofstra, right?
Back then. And if you're a guy, if you're taking Hofstra and making them a top 10 program, you're an amazing coach. Let's just put it that way, right? And Tom hit the nail on the head. He's like, here's what I see about Mike Pucillo, Clint, and then you tell me what you see. And he told me everything. I said, you got it spot on, Tom. And you're one of the only coaches seeing that, and that's going to benefit you tremendously. I would go all in on Mike Pucillo. He's going to do great things for you. And Mike was at 1 year at Hofstra. He hated it. He wanted to transfer. He wanted to leave. Talked him into staying there. And then as fate would have it, Ohio State, ended up hiring him the next year. And then Mike got to go have his career at Ohio State and become a national champion there, which was fantastic. And, and they got a great head coach. And And you can see where that program's gone since, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's amazing what can happen when you're putting the right people in place. And Ohio State made a very wise choice there.
Right. No, that's for sure. I think, yeah, I think he was going to Hofstra. Maybe he was at Hofstra when Coach Black was talking about it, and everyone's like, obviously you've seen it, Coach Ryan's seen it, but it's pretty cool to hear those stories and
Yep.
see it come to fruition. And they do reach that pinnacle when they can do that. No, some good stories, and so you touched on the MMA, and that probably had some transition from the wrestling world, and then did you learn anything from that? I guess as an adult, maybe from coaching, that things you took away that you bring into the coaching from MMA.
Absolutely. It was a humbling experience, right? Because I'm coming out of the wrestling world where, I think I'm a pretty good here, and a lot about this sport, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the guy that's coaching, I'm the guy that's running practices, and I'm the guy that's training guys and things along those lines. And when I made a decision, I was training a little bit, I was working, you know, with some kickboxing coaches, which was great. It was fun, getting in there with some jujitsu guys and stuff. And then I made a decision. Okay, I want to compete, right? And then when I made that decision, I wasn't going to be one of these guys that say, I'm just going to go in the cage and fight. You know what I mean? I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right, right? So I had to put myself in the position of, especially in kickboxing, like, I got to be new. You got to be new. This is completely different than what you're used to and what you know. You can't come in here and act like you know this, right? You gotta become a student again, which was really great, And then I forgot about. I didn't. All I wanted to do was hit and kick the bag as hard as I could. It was, just like any knucklehead wrestler, right?
Right.
And I just had to completely forget that. And then, start learning from my coach, which was great. I had a few actually kickboxing fights too, which was cool. I never really like fully transitioned into a comfortable stand-up fighter. But it was a great process. It was, I mean, and talk about humbling, I'd be in there with a high school kid, skinny high school kid, 17 years old, right? If I wanted to, I could just grab him and take him down and smash him, right? But I had to stand up and fight with them. And these skinny little kids just picking me apart, man. I can't get a hand on them and kicking me in the head. And I'm just like, oh man, but no, it was great, and I had a really good jujitsu coach as well, Ricardo Perez, right? He coached Uriah Faber and Frank Mir. He was
Oh
he was
wow.
their, he was
Jeez,
their
Louise.
coaches when they made their runs, and then what he did was he moved to Cleveland of all places and opened two gyms here, and we were able to hook up, and I just learned some real. So I had to become a student again, so I've had to
Right.
put myself in that place. What's it like
Mm-hmm.
to just be here and be new and learning, right?
Right.
So that helped me from a coaching standpoint to put myself in the shoes of the people I'm working with, right? What's it like to be new? You're nervous, you don't know stuff, you don't know the terminology, right? And why, and that's one of the reasons why it's so important to, kind of understand that as a coach, right? To be able to meet people where they're at, right? And then Ricardo, I mean, he had some great training methods, man. Like, he did some things with me in training that, I just never would have thought I could do. I ended up when getting ready for fights, I'm doing, these Shark Tank fights a couple weeks out where, I got three guys in a ring, all that are really good at one certain thing. And every time I'm making a move in a transition, I got that new guy in on me in his best position. And I'm doing that for 3 rounds. And I thought I was doing 6-minute rounds to help get ready for the 5-minute rounds. I was doing 8-minute rounds, right? So, no, it was great, and I spent time with some Brazilian guys and some guys that fought in the UFC, and, just learned some neat new training methods, learned a really great new training methods for body weight strength conditioning, things along those lines. So, yeah, no, there's no question that experience helped me in my coaching. And I bring a lot of that stuff. I mean, one of the fitness tests I do for my teams every year came straight from our MMA training. It basically was a fitness test that we did to say, okay, you're ready for a fight. You're ready for a 9-minute fight. You're ready for a 15-minute fight. You're ready for a 25-minute fight. And I implement that into what we do in our preseason strength conditioning. and many other things too. But it was a great experience.
Right. Right. Um, one thing, I had the pleasure of bringing you into the room last year. You said you have a daughter that's involved in wrestling.
Yeah, she's into it, man.
Yeah.
She's doing great. She's I don't know if she's your normal girl, right?
Okay.
When she was a little baby, I was like, just so excited to be a dad and have a
Hmm.
little girl, and
Right.
and we have our thoughts in our mind. I'm like, oh, she's gonna like, wait, my nickname for her was gonna be Muffin, right? It's gonna be my little Muffin, right? Well, I mean, she's not 3 months old, 4 months old. She's on my chest, and she's digging her head in on my chin and digging for head position. I mean, moving my chin. I'm like looking at my wife. I was like, "Is this little girl fighting for head position? What is going on here?" And and she was just tough, like out
Right.
of the gate. I mean, just like
Right.
tough. Well, her new nickname became Tough Muffin,
All right.
so she's always been physical. She's very athletic, very strong, very competitive, and she wanted to start wrestling. I mean, her and my wife were talking about it when she was 5, when she was 6, and I really don't believe in starting wrestling that early. I think that's too early.
Hmm.
But we held off till she was 7, and man, she dove right in. And you know what? In the wrestling, she's got a smile on her face from ear to ear for the entire wrestling practice. So, I've been watching it closely. It's definitely her own. It's definitely something that she's into, and so and she's done really well. She won Maryland Girls State title 2 years in a row. We lived out there in Maryland,
Oh, cool.
and when I was coaching at American, she won the Ohio novice state girls last year.
Cool.
So, she's now 9 years old, and we're probably going to start picking it up with her a little bit. You know, I, you know, we could talk a lot about like the
Right.
development of kids and things along those lines, but now is the time where we're not going to go all in, but we're going to probably
Right.
step it up a little bit, step her
Right.
training a little bit, step her competition up a little bit. But she's got a knack for the sport. Um, she's not afraid to get in there and wrestle hard and do the training that coaches and team put them through and stuff like that. And so, so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, she's definitely a little athlete. She loves sports without question, and she's a little soccer player too. Take her up to the ninja course. She loves that ninja course.
Nice. Nice.
We'll just see where things go.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, it's definitely picking up here in Ohio. I actually have Vanessa Oswald of Olentangy Orange on later this week. She's the state coaches association rep for the girls wrestling, and
Yeah,
they got a lot of good things coming here in Ohio. So it's
yeah,
exciting. It's awesome to see. You could tell your face lit up when you talked about it. You could tell and I'm sure she shares that same passion. So it's pretty cool when you have that. You see someone enjoy it and being passionate about something and enjoy it. So it's pretty cool.
well, that's what it's all about. It's
Right.
I mean, whether it's wrestling or whatever, and
Hmm.
we're all kind of wired towards different things. And I think the thing is, like help your kids, find out what they're passionate about, right, and then pursue that, whatever it is. And everybody just thinks that my kids are going to be wrestlers or whatever, and it's just
Hmm.
and it's not that way at all. I mean, if they
Right.
want to be, they will be.
Right.
And if they're into it and it's their passion, we're going to do it. We're going to do it to the best of our ability. But if my son wants to be a basketball player and that's his passion and he's going to pursue that, then that's what we're going to pursue, right? As parents and things like that, we can't make that stuff about us, right? These are all great potential experiences in different ways, and if it's music
Hmm.
that my kid's passionate about, then it's music, we're going to pursue that. We just want to help them find what that is,
Hmm.
and then support them, in every way that we can. That's my parents did that for me, and I'll always appreciate that. Everything I got to do in wrestling was my own, right? It was never forced or pushed on me in any way, and I got to nurture that passion and love that I had, and it turned into a wonderful thing. So I want that same experience for my kids. And like you said, it's great that if my daughter wants to pursue the highest goals in wrestling now, that she can, right?
Hmm.
And it's absolutely time that that girls wrestling is widespread, national, and available for these girls in every state. It's wrestling's never been a sport for every guy. It's never been a sport. Not every boy or man on the planet is made for wrestling, right? It's not going to be a sport for every girl either.
Right.
It's going to be a sport for some girls, right?
Right.
It'll be a great avenue for them to learn a lot of great life lessons, right? I mean,
Right.
just amazing things we get to learn through the sport of wrestling, right? That help us in life in so many ways. And one thing that we can just point to now through this, kind of strange and challenging time that we're going through is resilience. There will be no sport that creates more resilience in you than wrestling. That's for sure. And then also the opportunities that come along with that, right? The opportunities to, get a great education, the opportunities to potentially see the world, right?
Right.
Meet some amazing people and learn from some amazing people too. So, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Having those things out there for these kids to aim for, right? They see that big, that cool thing that they want to go after. And then, then it sets their life on a good course, where they're going to have a lot of good experiences, a lot of good opportunities, and learn a lot of wonderful things. So,
right. We've been both pretty blessed from the sport, and, obviously gotten a lot of opportunities, from the sport. I think we're both pretty blessed, and, hope to continue to be that way. So, but, thanks for your time. You have anything else you want to touch on?
I mean, I could, we can talk all day, Jared. There's a lot of good stuff we can talk about, right?
Yeah. One question I had, I forget who I talked with. It might have been Matt Hill over at Edinburgh, but with, not that it's going to be a drastic change, but with that 4-point near fall, obviously you have it, being at Penn State and the college scene, that 4-point near fall, does that kind of widen the gap between Pennsylvania and other states? As far as them being at the top or near the top.
It definitely benefits some guys. Like a Shoop, from Lock Haven, it definitely helped him. And like you said, a lot of PA guys on the mat, with tilt series and things along those lines. Definitely, like you can see that it definitely is going to help guys like that. But what I like about it, I want to see, we need to have a 3-point takedown here soon too, right?
Yeah.
So the NCAA is going in the right direction every time they encourage action in any aspect of the match, right? That aggressive offensive action. That's what people love and want to see. They don't want to see somebody halt the match, slow the match down to a grinding halt and turn into a 1-0, 1-1, whatever, sort of thing. They want to see guys compete and wrestle. And that's what we're about. That's what this sport should be about. This sport should be about going out, working hard, taking risks, things on those lines, right? And in freestyle, the bigger risk you take, the bigger reward you get, right? So we're picking up on that a little bit in collegiate. And quite honestly, I think like the closer we get collegiate to freestyle, that the better we're going to be in that realm too, right? Which those rules are about as close as they've ever been.
Right. Let's hope they don't change the other way. They don't like us Americans sometimes. They might change it back here. Let's hope not.
Thank God we don't have the same leadership at the top. Feel changed to UWW, and thank goodness for that. So now instead of making rules to make American wrestling less effective, they're going to make rules that feature the sport and highlight the sport and make people want to watch the sport. We're now fighting for our survival. We don't have the luxury to do that anymore. We have to make our sport as entertaining as possible. And the new rules do that, right? The new rules do that for the most part. The 1-1 tie and then the criteria, I think I mentioned that on your questionnaire. Like, that's got to go. They got to figure a way to, like, settle a match another way other than that. But largely, the rules are the best they've ever been in freestyle. And it's one of the reasons we're doing so well in the United States. And we need to continue to push our rules in collegiate in that direction. So we're rewarding offensive, aggressive wrestlers. If you almost got that takedown, you need to be getting that takedown because you got that risk. If you're almost getting those back points, you need to get those back points because you're the one taking the risk, right? And putting it out there. The more we reward that, the more aggressive wrestling we're going to see. The more aggressive wrestling we're going to see, the more entertaining it's going to be for our fans and the better experience they'll be able to have when they come to a match, when they're watching it on TV, when they come to the NCAA championships. So 4 points for near fall, great, but get a 3-point takedown out there as well, right?
Do you think 3-point, no matter any takedown or first takedown? What's your take on that?
Takedown, you get the takedown. Okay. So there is one element: offensive takedown 3 points, defensive takedown maybe 2 points, right?
Oh, okay.
Where you counter instead of be the one to initiate, right? So if you initiate, you get the extra point for being the aggressor, going out there, possibly, right? And these are the things. These things are being discussed in the NCAA rules committees. These are things that and we're going down the right path. We're going down the right path along those lines. So, and we just need to, continue to go that way, right? It just, and all the data shows, some of these rule changes where we keep the momentum of the match going, right? Not keeping them wrestling on the mat. Although we could turn that into a push out instead of a stall, like a push out point, like they do in freestyle.
Right.
I'd kind of be okay with that. Although nobody would want to, I would probably just become now a push out only team, right? We'd have to watch out for that, right? Maybe, but at any rate, the more we reward the good, hard, offensive wrestling, the aggressive wrestling, it just shows over and over the data that, the matches move at a better pace. There's more action out there. And that's what people want to see, right? And simplifying some things. Right. There's probably, they've gone a pretty good way in eliminating the endless scrambling that was happening by, if you are exposed on your back, you're in the danger. That's a good rule, right? Because that keeps guys from perpetually rolling across their backs and things like that. Where in freestyle, you tech yourself out of a match if you did that.
Right.
So in my mind, those are the right things to be doing. What's been going on with our rules committee has been going in the right direction, and we just really need to keep going in that direction. It's showing, and it's showing. It's showing we're in a resurgence in wrestling, right? Our sport is like resurging, right? And there's multiple factors to that, right? We have, like, our guys now have a viable professional path and from our sport. That's huge. Whether they want to go the MMA route, which is an awesome route if they want to go, or if they want to go the Olympic route now, right? These guys are making very good money being regional training center athletes, right? Which is a fantastic thing and needs to continue to happen. We don't need legislation on that. We don't need any of that nonsense. What we need is more programs being able to pursue that, so we have, more of those, great opportunities for those athletes, right? This is kind of a difficult time right here, and we're going to kind of have to navigate it. Hopefully we don't lose too much during this, but largely we're kind of experiencing a renaissance with wrestling right now, right? At the Olympic level, at the NCAA level, anybody tunes into UFC on a Saturday night, they're hearing Joe Rogan yell double leg takedown, right? And people are just more and more interested in wrestling, right? Numbers are starting to go up again of youth participation. We need to continue to flourish that. And then if you include the girls in the participation, the numbers there are skyrocketing, right? So, there's potentially a very good future for us. Our NCAA championships, what Flow's helped do for us there has really been amazing. They've shown the networks that we've got a big viewership audience. And now our entire NCAA championships, every minute is covered on ESPN, right? The Big Ten has a great season. The other networks are trying to find ways to get wrestling, on TV, right? During the wrestling season. So there's a lot of good opportunities for us in the sport. We need to keep charging ahead with things that are going to make it easier for people to follow, and increase action. So when people watch, it's exciting action to watch. Right.
I guess, with that, going back, do you think if, when you were kind of in that Penn State and, coaching and then MMA, do you think, your path would have been a little bit different if it was like today's current climate with the RTCs and, the money that's, involved in, other avenues?
It could have. It's hard to say exactly.
Right.
It's hard to say exactly. I had some personal things I had to come over, coming out of my college career and entering into life after that. I can tell you this, I was depressed that like, I was like, what do I do? You know, I got
Right,
offered,
right.
you know, so I was offered volunteer positions. Kent State was one of the places where I had a volunteer position offered. They're going to pay me $7,000.
Right, right,
Even out of Arizona State, which was another offer, I was going to get $12,000 to move to Phoenix, Arizona.
right,
Like,
right,
you know, you can't realistically make that happen, right?
right.
So it made it really tough. It made the choices really tough. I could have gone out to the Olympic Training Center and lived there, worked part time at Home Depot, and did that route, which would have been a fine route. It would have been good,
Mhm.
right? And again, it was more kind of my own personal mindset that kept me from that.
Right,
But I mean, it's a clear path now. Like,
right. No, we were in a great, like you said, a resurgence for sure.
yeah, it's a clear path. You're
Mhm.
making these choices now, also thinking about your professional path
Right.
afterwards. So it's a completely different set of circumstances. Maybe my attitude would have been different about it.
Mhm.
And it certainly would have been an easier transition for me and a much easier decision to make. And there's no question I would have pursued it. I mean, my
Mhm.
dream was Olympic gold, things along those lines. And the mixed martial arts, you know, wrestlers are perfectly suited for mixed martial arts.
Right.
There's nothing they're doing in mixed martial arts, you know, except you got to learn punching and kicking, right? You got
Mhm.
to get in there. But from a training standpoint, a body preparation and conditioning standpoint, like we're actually the one that's has stepped that up for the MMA world, right?
Oh, for
We
sure, for sure.
wrestling brought a lot of things to that world that's just changed that game. So now it's such a natural transition for wrestlers. But no, there's no question. I would have loved to be have that real professional opportunity right through our 20s. And and our athletes, they work so hard to get to that point. You know, they deserve it, right?
Right.
It's kind of on us. I mean, we're figuring out a pretty good way, but it's really kind of on us to you know continue to grow that and build that and make
Mhm.
that possible for these guys, right? So
Right.
that they can see the fruits of all their hard labor really turn into something special, right? And then and then have it there for the next generation. That's just so important that those opportunities are there for these kids. So
Right. No, this has been some great discussion. I usually just sit back and listen. I'm definitely listening here and enjoying this. I try to butt out the way to hear these stories. Anyone in your journey that you kind of would like or that I could have on that's would be a good show?
oh, I mean, yeah, to interview.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like there's quite a few. I just
Yeah.
I don't know what route you'd want to go, but
Yeah.
Teague Moore would be a good interview.
Hmm.
I know you already got with Josh. You probably
Hmm.
have gotten some of the other local coaches and things on those lines. I don't know if you talked to Sonny yet, but Sonny
No, not yet. I
would
like
be
he's on the
great.
list though. But yeah, Teague
Yeah,
would be good. He has some good. Talked with him briefly. Back in probably about 2010 or 11.
yeah,
Back then. So I got to know him a little bit. But yeah,
yeah.
that's a
No,
good suggestion.
Teague does a great job, and and he's got some, he's passionate about the sport. I mean, he created a professional league, right?
Hmm.
And with an innovative idea, right? Like, if you scored, it was like the first one to score 10 points wins the match, right?
Hmm.
And so he's got, he thinks like that about our sport, right? And he's coached at the highest levels, and he's been, he's learned and been around some of the the biggest personalities of obviously career with John Smith at Oklahoma State and
Right.
all those guys that came through there. So that
Yeah.
would be a good one for you. I can reach out to him if you're interested. I
Yeah.
don't know
I
if yes or
yeah, I
not.
can reach out to him. I think I still
Okay.
have his contact. But no, that's a good. With these shows, I kind of ask who and it definitely sparks some ideas in my head. So no, but well, thanks for your time, Clint. I really appreciate it. Some good insight on the sport and good perspective, and that's what I'm looking for with this show and or podcast, whatever you want to call it. But definitely excited with what you guys have going on up at Cleveland State. Sounds like three of you you know got it going in the right direction and some good momentum, and it's exciting to see as someone in Ohio here, and it's definitely cool and excited for the season. So
Yeah.
thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. I
Yeah.
love this opportunity to
Yeah.
talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
I love what's going on with wrestling too, with more shows like this coming out. So
Yeah.
we got the idea to air out our ideas and put things out there and share some of our stories and experiences. We got we got a really cool story to tell about our sport and wrestling.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you.
All right, Jared. Thank you.